Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different, and honestly, a whole lot more unsettling. We're going to analyze three deeply disturbing, distinct cases of home invasion to really understand the escalating psychology of terror. We're going to break down exactly how these horrifying events unfold, not just physically, but mentally, pulling everything directly from documented, first-hand accounts.
So, I want you to anchor yourself for a second. Picture this. You are home alone, it's late at night, the house is perfectly quiet, and suddenly you hear an unexplainable noise. Maybe it's a floorboard creaking, a heavy shuffle, or a soft thud. Your heart immediately starts racing, your breath catches, and your brain frantically tries to come up with some logical explanation, right? Well, that exact moment of paralyzed uncertainty, that's the foundation for the analysis we're doing today.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at Section 1, the inherited house, Section 2, the uninvited guest, Section 3, the crawl space stalker, and finally, Section 4, is your home safe?
Let's jump right into Section 1, the inherited house, escalation of the unexplained.
This first account comes from a woman who, along with her fiancé, rented a home where two elderly residents had recently passed away in rapid succession. Left alone for the weekend, she started hearing these weird noises echoing up from the basement. But rather than panic, she rationalized it as just an older house creaking or settling. You know the feeling, right? It's a perfect example of how we instinctively use logic as a shield against our rising anxiety.
But look at what happens when we actually catalog these isolated red flags together. It becomes terrifyingly clear that the warning signs were compounding way before the actual threat arrived at her door. I mean, the house already had this heavy atmosphere. The previous owner suffered a fatal heart attack in the basement, and his wife passed away after a head injury that left a massive dark blood stain right on the living room carpet. Then the truly unexplainable stuff started. Her protective, usually quiet cattle dog Rex began viciously barking and growling at the closed basement door. The next morning, she finds the heavy washing machine dragged several feet into the middle of the laundry room. A machine of that weight doesn't just vibrate into the center of a room, yet she continued to push the dread down.
Let's look at how this actually played out that Saturday night, mapping out the dread hour by hour. At 9:18 p.m., a loud explosion rocks the house. Her phone buzzes with a notification from the garage camera, showing the heavy garage door wide open, with unexplained flashes of light, kind of like fireworks, illuminating the empty driveway. Her anxiety is absolutely peaking. Then the true nightmare begins. At exactly 3:39 a.m., she's jolted awake. Not by a gentle knock, but by continuous, violent pounding on her locked bedroom door. The handle starts violently shaking, and as she's screaming for the intruder to go away, her automated security system coldly announces over the speakers, "Front door open."
The true terror of this first case stems entirely from the ambiguity. You expect the police to arrive, find the bad guy, and solve the mystery. But the reality? When the cops showed up, they found 0 stolen items and no intruder. They completely dismissed the garage explosion as just neighborhood kids. And horrifyingly, they blamed the wide-open, previously deadbolted front door on, quote, the wind. There's absolutely no closure here, just a victim left wondering what invisible force or person was standing on the other side of her bedroom door.
Moving on to Section 2, the uninvited guest, the chaotic intruder.
This second case ramps up the threat level significantly. We're dealing with a random, highly chaotic intruder targeting a self-proclaimed homebody who lived right next door to a local bar. Let's track the anatomy of this break-in step by step. It started innocently enough, but still weird. The homeowner spotted an erratic woman in a tattered pink dress outside the bar who aggressively waved and blew her a kiss. Later that night, around 1:30 a.m., came a gentle knock at the front door. Annoying? Sure, but kind of typical when you live near a bar. But then, she notices her car's interior light is on and the door is open. She rushes out to lock her car, comes back inside, and notices something chilling. The sudden, unmistakable scent of lavender perfume lingering inside her locked house. And soon after that, the undeniable sounds of rapid, delicate footsteps and a soft, feminine giggle echoing down her own hallway.
Put yourself in her shoes for a second. Imagine the sheer terror. The homeowner grabs a golf club, creeps out of her bedroom, and steps into her kitchen. Standing completely still, staring out the kitchen window, is the woman in the tattered pink dress. Without even turning around, the intruder utters this chilling phrase, "Hey buddy, I know you're there." She then snaps her head around and charges directly at the homeowner. The victim barely manages to lock herself in the bathroom as the intruder just starts hammering on the door.
And here is the kicker. This wasn't just some drunk person harmlessly wandering into the wrong house. When police cleared the home, they realized the intruder had fled out the back door. But looking down at the floor, directly outside the bathroom where the homeowner had barricaded herself, the police found one of the homeowner's own kitchen steak knives. This highly erratic event had lethal potential that was only narrowly avoided.
All right, we have arrived at Section 3, the crawl space stalker, the deeply personal threat. This is our final, and easily most terrifying case study. It moves way beyond the unexplainable or the random into a highly targeted, deeply personal threat hiding literally in plain sight. Here we see the ultimate psychological defense mechanism in action. The homeowner, Julie, a successful interior decorator who worked from home, starts hearing this strange, heavy shuffling sound above her home office. Because accepting the truth was just too horrifying, her brain provided a much more comforting alternative. She thoroughly convinced herself the noise was just squirrels in the siding. She even wrote herself reminder notes to call pest control, entirely dismissing the actual danger lurking right above her head.
When you look at this compounding list of ignored warnings, it shows exactly how much evidence our brains are willing to overlook to maintain a false sense of security. I mean, the squirrels escalated from daytime shuffling to late-night continuous movement and, horrifyingly, the audible sound of human breathing. Even when she found the pull string to the crawl space dangling and physically swaying, or when her normally wide-open bedroom door was suddenly pushed shut, she tried to rationalize it. But the illusion totally shattered when she walked into her bedroom and noticed a small, fresh clump of dirt sitting mysteriously on the floor, right beside her bed.
So she drops to one knee to inspect the dirt, and the terrifying reality of her situation finally catches up to her. As she leans down, she hears the breathing again. She peers under her bed and finds a middle-aged man lying flat on his stomach, staring directly back at her. As she screams and falls backward, the man doesn't run. Instead, he simply whispers these horrifyingly familiar, intimate words. "Hi, Julie. It's okay."
Somehow, Julie managed to run from the house and call the police from a nearby diner. The intruder managed to escape before they arrived, but when the police finally searched the home, they logged this incredibly chilling evidence, up in the crawl space directly above her bedroom. Several empty water bottles and a small sleeping pillow hidden behind a structural pillar. They confirmed her ultimate nightmare. She had never truly been home alone. Someone had been living, sleeping, and watching her from within the very walls of her sanctuary.
Which brings us to Section 4, Is Your Home Safe? The final analysis.
Let's summarize what we've learned from dissecting these terrifying accounts. The anatomy of a home invasion isn't always a shattered window in the middle of the night. Very often, it's a slow creep of anomalies that we actively choose to ignore. The biggest takeaway from this explainer is that in all three of these cases, the victims initially rationalized away the danger. Whether they blamed it on an old house settling, a drunk neighbor making a weird mistake, or just some pesky squirrels in the attic, the human brain desperately wants to feel safe in its own home. But by raising our psychological barriers and ignoring the small warning signs, like a moved appliance, a lingering smell, or a swaying string, we leave ourselves incredibly vulnerable to the very real threats standing right in front of us. So I'm going to leave you with this final kind of unsettling question to carry with you. We put so much faith in our deadbolts and our expensive alarm systems to protect us from the dangers of the outside world. But what happens when the threat didn't break in tonight? What happens when the threat has been quietly living with you, just waiting for you to turn off the lights? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and seriously, stay safe out there.